All right, there have been two times in the last few years where I have been genuinely stunned by a transaction. The first time was in February of 2025 when the Dallas Mavericks traded Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers for AD and one first-round pick. That was stunning. We remember people thinking that Shams Charania from ESPN was hacked, that this deal couldn't possibly be true. Everybody was astonished by it. This deal between Boston and Philadelphia, it's not quite that, but it's just a rung below it. So let's unpack the deal that the Celtics and 76ers made on Wednesday. The Sixers are acquiring Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown is going from the Celtics to the 76ers. Philadelphia is sending back Paul George, a 2028 first-round pick, a 2031 first-round pick, and a pair of second-round picks in 2028 and 2030. Okay. The only way to interpret this deal is to say that the Celtics really, really, really wanted to trade Jaylen Brown, because this is not getting 75 cents on the dollar. This is getting 50 cents on the dollar, and that may be being generous. Let's start with Paul George. Couple of years ago, Paul George was an all-star with the Clippers, a celebrated signing by Philadelphia. It would fit right in there into that wing position between Tyrese Maxey, and Joel Embiid. He would be round peg, round hole type of fit for him. Over the last 2 years, Paul George has played in 78 games, 41 games in his first season, 37 last season. Last season, of course, was derailed in part by the positive drug test that cost him a 25-game suspension. During that time, he has averaged right around 6 fewer points per game than he did in his last season with the Clippers. His shooting percentage has plummeted to around 43%. His three-point percentage, he was 41.3% his last year with the Clippers. He was around 36 last year, just a shade under 40 in his in the last season. 2 seasons ago, it was about 36, shade under 40 last season. He's not been good, and his contract is atrocious. He's owed about $110 million over the next 2 years. Second year is a player option that he unquestionably is going to pick up. He is one of the worst contracts in the NBA right now. The first-round picks, maybe they could be good. 2031, unprotected in Philadelphia, maybe. That's a long way down the line. What's Joel Embiid doing at that point? Probably gone. Jaylen Brown could be on a different team. Tyrese Maxey, who knows? So I guess there's some appeal to getting that 2031 first, and the Celtics can certainly use that in another deal. And they better, because this is a very bad deal for Boston. Full stop. There's no ways to look at it. I sent a bunch of text messages to a bunch of different NBA types, coaches, executives, scouts, and nobody came back with an affirmative response for Boston. Most came back with some version of, this is the best they could do. And the only takeaway you can have is that the Celtics were done with Jaylen Brown. Simple as that. And it's a remarkable thing to say, given where we were 2 months ago, where Jaylen Brown was the number one player on a 56-win team, having the best season of his career, and looking like a close proximity to his running mate, Jason Tatum. Looking like he had grown in his age 28 season. Guys don't develop like that this late in their career. Jaylen Brown did. But the Celtics have spent the better part of the last couple of weeks doing everything they can to offload this guy. It's not an opinion. It's a fact. They have been trying to deal him. We all know about the Giannis Antetokounmpo stuff. When that fell apart, when they didn't get Giannis, if they had really wanted Jaylen Brown or wanted to keep Jaylen Brown, they could have just stopped talking about him altogether and said, you know what? We want Jaylen. That's our guy. We want to keep him around long term. He's got 3 years left in his contract. Won a championship 2 years ago. Celtics won a championship 2 years ago. They could have done all those things. Instead, They pivoted and kept shopping Jaylen Brown. They were talking to a lot of teams. They were offering Jaylen Brown up to all those teams. They were looking for draft capital. They were looking for players, but they were looking for something. They were looking to deal Jaylen Brown. The Celtics were done with Jaylen Brown. And it will take some reporting, and I plan to do some of it to understand fully exactly why the Celtics wanted to move off a 29-year-old borderline superstar in the prime of his career with 3 years left in his contract. How toxic had it become in Boston between the Celtics and Jaylen Brown? I think we got the answer to the question of, was it toxic? Clearly, you don't do a deal like this unless you want to move off Jaylen Brown. You do a deal for Giannis, okay, you get top 5 player in the NBA who's battled some health issues, but you get a guy that you can say is better than Jaylen Brown. I had talked about the conversation the Celtics had about the Cavs with Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley, not Jaylen Brown, but plays a different position, more physical, or at least a better shot blocker, defensive player, plays the front line. You could talk yourself into that. You can't talk yourself into this. You can't. This is a bad trade. It's a bad trade for the Celtics. And unless they have something else cooking, where they take some of this draft capital, they take another piece, and they make a deal, they are significantly worse now than they were certainly 2 years ago, and maybe worse than last season. I say maybe only because I think Mitchell Robinson is a Joe Mazzulla type of guy, rebound the basketball. He's going to help that team. Mike Conley, good leader in the locker room, good backup at this stage of his career. But Jaylen Brown is a star. Jaylen Brown is a bucket. Jaylen Brown is arguably the best two-way wing in the league. And the Celtics just got less for Jaylen Brown than the Clippers got in a trade for a 35-year-old Kawhi Leonard with 1 year left in his contract. Think about that. Incredible. Incredible. The toxicity that must have existed in Boston with Jaylen Brown. It's the only way you can look at it. There's no other way to look at it. There's no way to say this is a good trade. There's no way to say Boston got better. They just forked over their second best player, a guy that was their best player last year, a guy that's in his prime, that last year was getting better, got better last year. They gave him up for a 36-year-old Paul George who has been on not a steady decline, a steep decline, and a couple of first-round draft picks. Hard to justify this deal unless something else is coming that's going to make them better, but good luck trading that Paul George contract at some point. Maybe next summer when it's expiring, but good luck trading that Paul George contract right now. This deal, inexplicable to me. Not to mention, you do a deal. This is the last point I'll make on this. You do a deal with Philadelphia. That's a division rival. That's a team you're going to have to face in the playoffs. You're going to have to eat Jaylen Brown like 4 times a year. Think he's going to be up for those games? And Jaylen Brown alongside Maxey, alongside Embiid, if he can stay on the floor, I'm doing cartwheels if I'm Philadelphia. I'm having a party down Broad Street if I'm Philadelphia. This is a tough day if you're a Celtics fan watching this and watching your in his prime superstar, all-NBA second team, should have been all-NBA first team, top 6 MVP guy, not just leave, but leave to a division rival, and you're going to have to see him 4 times a year for like at least the next 3 years, maybe longer if they give him an extension. Why wouldn't you if you're Philadelphia? Why wouldn't you give him an extension? Remarkably bad deal. Bad deal for Boston. But the Jaylen Brown era is officially over.
Hit subscribe for more news, highlights, and analysis from the NBA on NBC.